Tighebo here. We are back again with more Expect the Unexpected, Chapter 7. Last time we left off, Ruby had the day shift, and she, instead of annoying animatronics, she annoyed humans, which was beautiful. And yeah, so this should be an interesting night for 4, I believe we're on now. So, yeah. Also, if you wondering what the hell is going on, there should be a playlist. Probably won't link it, but you can find it on my channel. You click on the channel, my channel name, and then you go to, maybe scroll down to playlist or click playlist, and then you click Expect the Unexpected. All 6 chapters are there, so, and this one will also be there, so go check that out. What else? Oh yeah. If you want to follow along with the story, link to the chapter will be in the description below. Thank God I did not forget. I forgot last time and remembered till the end. Anyway, let's get started with Chapter 7, Night 4. More teasing. No, not teasing. Tormenting. Tormenting. Do you get that reference? I love you guys. I love you. Anyway. Ruby settled in her chair, looking around the room suspiciously for a certain golden bear. Unknown to her, Goldie still hadn't appeared, and certainly wasn't going to appear that night. She was perfectly happy to sit in her poster and hope that Ruby didn't accidentally summon her. Hello, hello! Steve's voice cut through the silence in the room. Hey, Steve, did you know that this place is haunted by a golden ghost bear? Ruby asked conversationally as she opened a packet of sour worms. She's going to need a lot of sugar after all, and caffeine. A thermos of coffee sat on the desk next to her elbow. Hey, wow, day 4. I knew you could do it. Thanks, but seriously, the ghost bear? Does no one know about this? Ruby asked before taking a sip of her coffee. Hey, listen, I may not be around to send you a message tomorrow. Steve sounded nervous. Ruby froze and stared at the phone, her breathing growing shallow as bangs were also heard in the background of the phone call. It's been a bad night here for me. Steve? Ruby murmured, dread curling up in her stomach. I'm kind of glad that I recorded my messages for you. Steve cleared his throat. When I did. Oh no, she whispered, knowing exactly what was happening and what was about to happen. Hey, do me a favor. More banging echoed in the background. No last requests. This will feel all too real. Ruby couldn't seem to tear her eyes away from the phone. Maybe sometime, you could check inside those suits in the back room? The bang grew louder. Ruby's eyes grew sad. I'm gonna try to hold out until someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. Steve? The bang grew even louder. I've always wondered what was in those empty heads back there. Some kind of tune or chime played suddenly. You know, a deep moan sounded. Oh no. Suddenly there was a screech, followed by ominous static? I think that's the word. Doesn't look like the word, but I guess it is. Anyway, Ruby was left to stare in horrified grief at the phone. Knowing that people had been killed and hearing it were two different things. Foxy stared pensively at the wall. Ruby would be listening to that phone call now. How are you going to react, lass? Can you forgive even this? He murmured to himself. Maybe this would be the final straw to chase her off. The idea made him sad, but he knew it would probably be the best for her. She didn't deserve the fate of a night guard. She didn't deserve any of this, really. Bonnie stared blankly ahead of him. Night 4 was when they all kicked the game into high gear. Friday was going to be going all out, and he expected them to do the same. His eyes flickered to the camera momentarily. Still no movement. That was weird. Normally at this point the guard was frankly checking the cameras, but Ruby hadn't even checked once. Did they actually scare her off, he wondered? Chica tried not to think of what the phone call was revealing in the office. She often tried to forget. It wasn't nice to discover afterwards that the very thing that she was trying to forget had actually been immortalized on tape. They hadn't known he'd been recording at the time. Just thought that he was talking to himself. Night guards all dealt with this situation differently, after all. Freddie felt nervous. Night 4 was when they all worked harder together since they were running out of time to catch the guard. However, this time they were down 2. Foxy still flat out refused to help, while Goldie would probably run, even if she was summoned. Would they be able to accomplish this? They only had 2 nights left. Goldie peeked out of her poster. Nope! She was like, looking at her posters, like, looking at the situation, like, nope, not gonna do this. Not joining in this. Not going to get involved. I'm out. Nope. I just find that somewhat amusing. She decided and went back into hiding. Ruby finally took a look at the cameras. Everyone was out, except Foxy. She signed and set her mouth to a determined line. Now was not the time to be spacing out. She had a mission to accomplish after all. She looked around and quickly scurried into her room from across her. She hadn't been here before. Ruby looked around at the animatronic heads and parts and gave a voluntary shudder. It was as still as a graveyard. Stealing to herself, she reached into her bag and pulled out a can of spray paint. She couldn't exactly fulfill Steve's final request with the amount of time that had passed, but she could do it in her own way. 5 minutes later, she was done and turned to leave. Pausing for a moment, she glanced back. On the wall of the parts and service room, she had spray painted a message. Steve was here. A little cartoon phone was painted next to it. Aww, he's cute. I love Ruby. I've never loved an original character so much, but I love you, Ruby. You're the best. Anyway, at least he wouldn't be forgotten. She smiled slightly. I won't forget, Steve, she murmured. I'm ending this nightmare. I'm bringing the bots I knew back. You go, girl. You go, girl. I love you, Ruby. She's just too awesome. With a determined smile, she turned and headed back into the game. Bonnie should have known that a heavy atmosphere would have not lasted with Ruby around. He also should have known that Ruby would not be scared off that easily. Yes, Bonnie, you fool. Oh, Bonnie, green is so not your color. I'll have to try something else next time. The night guard in front of him pulled a face at his appearance. He'd been stalking down the hallway like normal, and then out of the blue, a balloon had come flying at him. It hit him square in the chest, and now he was dripping lime green paint on his front. Lime green. Green, I can handle. Paint, I can handle. But what were you thinking with lime green? Bonnie yelled, but it came out more like a whine. I didn't sound like a whine, but I'm not saying it again. Ruby smiled at him innocently. I've been traumatized. My color sense went out the window. Traumatized? Bonnie narrowed his eyes at her. You have no idea. He leapt at her as she dodged, and found himself being hit with another balloon. This one held orange paint. Neon orange. He groaned. Are you colorblind? She laughed at him. Hey, I put the paint in the balloons, but even I don't know what color is in them until it pops. He growled and charged at her again. She ducked under his arms and spun behind him. He was nailed in the back of the head and turned to glare at her. She snickered at him. He's yellow, she provided, and she couldn't see. Suddenly, Chica dived at her out of nowhere, and Ruby dodged at the last second. So close. Ruby grinned, a little breathless. She tossed the balloon at the chicken, who was unluckily hit in the face with baby blue. She got baby blue, that's not so bad. Lime green, neon orange, and puke yellow? Bad. Baby blue is a nice color. Maybe. I don't know. But it's blue. Can't be that bad. Anyway, how many of those does she have? Calling you two. I'm not feeling any murderous intent. She goaded and laughed when they both made a grab for her. As she dodged, though, Freddy also appeared, and she barely avoided being grabbed by him. Well, looks like everyone's here. Ruby smiled at the three of them as they growled. Okay, imagine this scenario. You got Freddy behind her. Hold on, no, wait. You got all three of them surrounding her, and Ruby's in the middle. Freddy's behind her, and Chica and Bonnie are in front of her. Bonnie's covered in paint, and I guess Chica's kind of covered, not as bad as Bonnie, but yeah, these guys are surrounding her. They're growling, and she's just smiling like a maniac, like, yes, I've got this. I know something you don't. Okay, anyway. Ruby smiled at the three of them as they growled. So, I can bring out the big guns then, right? She reached behind her as Bonnie felt suddenly nervous. A long gun of sort appeared. What the? Chica started, but was cut off as she and the others were pelted by paintballs. Paintball gun! Ruby sang as she covered them in bright neon pink spots of paint, modified, of course. She grinned evilly as they staggered to regain their balance when she paused. Freddy recovered first and pounced at her, but she danced out of the way. It's paint night! She hollered and threw a paint balloon at Freddy's face before sprinting away, cackling. Bonnie groaned as Freddy wiped the gray paint out of his eyes. The rabbit animatronic kicked the nearby dustbin, and suddenly a bang echoed down the corridor. She hit a glitter mine in the dustbin? He screeched. Great! Now I'm painted and glittered. Poor Bonnie. He has the worst luck. He threw his arms up in aggravation while Chica leaned over to Freddy. How did she know that he would kick the dustbin? She whispered. Luck, Chica. She probably didn't. She just put it in there because she felt like it. Because that's Ruby. Anyway, Freddy just shook his head in annoyance. Foxy was listening to far off yells and bangs when suddenly Ruby came barreling into Pirate's Cove. He jumped slightly, but recovered as she crouched down, trying to stifle her laughter. Looking up at him, he noticed the sparkle in her eyes, and she grinned. They looked like they were hit by a colorblind abstract artist. It was impossible to not smile back or chuckle at that image. Mind if I recharge here for a moment? Didn't get much sleep with the double shift. He shook his head as he settled back down. Thanks. She pulled a thermos out of her backpack, along with a bag of chips, running on caffeine and sugar at the moment, and a lot of adrenaline. They're pretty good when they're worked together. So, what are you doing tonight, lass? He asked. It's paint night, so paint balloons, my paintball gun, and everything related to paint. Not to mention glitter. You gotta have the glitter. She smirked as she tore into her chips. Another bang went off as Foxy chuckled and Ruby beamed. Someone found the tripwire activated paint bucket. Bleh. That was a tongue twister. It was not, it was just hard to say. Foxy smirked. It exploded. Yeah, it dropped from its perch and boom on impact. She took a gulp of coffee, always listening. Surprised to see that you seem fine. Surprised to see that you seem to be fine, lass. Whew. I thought the phone call would bother you more, he murmured after a moment of silence. She looked at the fox for a moment before gazing up the ceiling. There's a reason. Huh? Foxy blinked. There's a reason you guys are doing this. She continued to look up. You're obviously not doing it for fun. Foxy watched her quietly. So that means I can't judge without knowing what that reason is. I love you, Ruby. You're the best. She glanced at Foxy, who had a solemn expression on his face. But none of you seem ready to talk yet, so I'll hang around until you are. Besides, he seems to like you all, despite the whole kill the night guard thing. She finally looked at Foxy again. And so do I, so I'm sticking around. Her smile was confident, but gentle at the same time. That's all. If you're in danger? Foxy asked softly. She nodded as she drank more coffee. We don't have a choice, lass. It's not going to go away. The defeated undertone caught her attention. She frowned at him. On night 6, we don't have a choice. If things get bad, really bad. His eyes seemed to grow distant for a moment. Ruby was quiet for a moment. Someone or something is forcing you, she clarified. He nodded. She bit her lip for a moment. Anyone ever survived night 6? Foxy averted his eyes and shook his head. Well, there was a first time for everything. You go, girl. You go, girl. She stood up and wiped the crumbs off her clothing. The pirate fox looked at her in surprise. Don't underestimate me, Foxy, she grinned. I swore I'll end this nightmare. I promised Steve, and I don't break my promises. As she raced out the room, Foxy stared after her. Who's Steve? I guess no one knew she'd never told anyone that what she called phone guy. Steve. Bonnie, who could no longer be classified as a purple rabbit, raced after the night guard, who seemed to be almost giddy with sugar. He had seen a lot of sugar highs in life, but this was one of the worst. Okay, hold on. Oh god, this is gonna suck. Okay. Come on, buddy, you've got to run faster if you want to catch me, and look at the pretty picture. Isn't that nice? Oh. Okay, yeah, I think I got that right. Hopefully you understood that. If not, link fanfic in the description below. Go check it out. You can try and figure it out yourself. Anyway, she babbled on at super speed while lobbing balloons over her shoulder with terrifying accuracy. Eventually, frustrated beyond belief, he managed to snag the balloon out of the air and, without thinking, threw it back at her. She froze in surprise as pink paint mixed into her hair and ran down the back of her neck. Bonnie froze in surprise too. She looked back at him before a laugh bubbled out of her lips. That's the spirit, Bonnie! She cheered and hit him in the shoulder. White paint. Have some fun! And then she was off again. Bonnie stared at his hand in surprise, like he was seeing it for the first time. That's not what that says. Anyway, a smile broke over his face as his chuckle escaped his mouth. That felt good, he admitted. Really good. Eventually, the night slipped away and 6 a.m. chimed. Bots dragged themselves to the stage. How are we gonna clean up this time? Chica wondered, looking around at the multicolored group. You need a bath. Ruby's voice caused them to spin around. She leaned against the door frame, but before they could say anything to the current pink-haired guard, she let out a huge yawn. Sugar crash, she mumbled before she stumbled to the table and curled up on top. Wait, is she actually on top of the table, or is she sitting on a chair and then leaning over? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if she was literally on top of the table, sleeping. Anyway, seconds later, she was asleep. Did she just... Bonnie's voice died away as his disbelief grew. The others stared at her with her mouths agape as well. Foxy chuckled from the doorway. Well, she did do a double shift. They looked over at the paint-free fox. That's just not fair, Bonnie whined. Well, I didn't try to kill her. Foxy shot a look at the others. Ruby mumbled something in her sleep and flopped over onto her back. I didn't use the dynamite, Mom. That comment itself was a cause for concern. Hope she doesn't have any dynamite left, Bonnie muttered, moderately worried. Why are you being so difficult, Foxy? Freddie growled. The pirate's ears fell back in annoyance. I'm not participating, he bit out. Chica tried to reason with him. Come on, Foxy, please. We need your help. The fox's eyes narrowed in anger while Bonnie stayed surprisingly quiet, glancing at the night guard occasionally. I told you already, I'm not participating. Before anyone could say anything else, Ruby muttered again. Foxy senses tingling. It's funny. Anyway, she sat bolt upright and a fiery glare zeroed in on the animatronics. As role models to children, you should not shape peer pressure in any way. Do you want the children who love you to learn this behavior at such a young, impressionable age? Honestly, basically, it boils down, leave Foxy alone, or I machine gun you down. She stared at them for a moment before she flopped back on the table. She was back to sleep in seconds. Foxy let out Foxy let out a laugh. The last just never gets boring, hey? The others just stared at us, wondering when things got so weird in their will. And that's the end of chapter 7. Ugh. Phew. So, hope you liked Ruby. She's awesome as always. But yeah, that's it of that. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like. Be sure to subscribe. Comment down below if you're enjoying this so far. I don't know when I'll get back to the other story, if you're aware. 5 Nights at Harry's. I might go back at one point, but considering how long the chapters are and how tired I get from all of them, it's a lot of talking and reading. So, yeah. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter. Link to that in the description below as well. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll see you guys next Friday with a new video.